We are taught as Christians to love everyone, welcome everyone, and serve everyone. But does loving everyone mean letting everyone influence you? There is a dangerous idea in the church that boundaries are unspiritual. But today we are talking to a pastor who says that if you don't curate your circle will kill your calling. I'm Bryan Evans.
And I'm Rodney Thrift.
And I'm Johnny Mitcham.
This is a special bonus episode of DC Table Talk. So we have a full table today. Pastor Johnny, welcome to the podcast.
I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
So glad you're here. And you are the connections pastor here, which means you see all sorts of relationships through all sorts of dynamics.
Yep.
And so I want to jump right into the tension. See, Pastor Rodney, in episode 4, we talked about building community and how we need people. We need to stop being lone wolves. But Johnny, in your message, New Fellowship, back in January, we closed out the All Things New series. You quoted 1 Corinthians, bad company corrupts good character. So here's the confusion. Jesus ate with sinners. He hung out with messy people. So are we supposed to invite people in, like Pastor Rodney said? Or are we supposed to keep people out, like you said? How do we do both?
Well, I think we can definitely, we can keep people in. But I think the point that I'm trying to make, or I think the Lord wants to let us know, is that we don't have to have everybody in all the time. We don't have to let everybody have access to our lives all the time. And that the people that we hang out with, the people that we're around constantly, does in fact shape us and form us. And so, yes, but I don't invite everyone into my life. I'll invite some people in. Do I love all people? Yes. Am I going to love all people the way Jesus told me to? Yes. But as far as being a part of people's lives and allowing them into my world or me into their world, we have to be very cautious of that because it can get a little dangerous and it can be unhealthy. Point in case, I used to thought that I was the one that had to be the savior and step into people's lives. And when I got involved in people's lives, that I felt like I had to be the one. In turn, I was telling my wife that, hey, you're okay, I'm going to spend time with these people because I thought that I had to invest in their lives, but therefore I was saying no to my family and my children and my wife especially.
Wow, so good to have you, Pastor Johnny. So good to have you on the show with us today. And I'm excited to get to go back and forth a little bit with this, looking at some different ways that we can look at community. And I thought that you did such an amazing job just drawing the lines, drawing the boundaries, talking about different kinds of relationships that we do have. And I can also see where you were looking at possibly how Jesus had the 70 and the 12 and the 3, and you worked out from under that. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think with Jesus, he was very particular with who he allowed into his world and also who he wanted to pour into, because you can only pour so much of your life into a certain amount of people. I think so many times we try to stretch ourselves so thin and people don't get to really experience the depth of relationships. But Jesus mirrored that for us. He showed us that listen, you had these people that you were talking to. You had this circle of 12 that were important, but he even took 3 of them and he pulled them aside and he even poured more into them, which shows us a great thought of how we need to set our lives up when it comes to relationships with people in general. Because if not, we're not going to be able to, I think we can go very thin and go wide, but we're not going to go deep. And I think that's where, at least I've seen in my life, I know you have too, Pastor Rodney, that you can only go so deep with a certain amount of people, but you have to allow them in and you have to spend time with them as well.
So there was this thought process on the mirror concept, like relationships are like mirrors. And can you do a little deep dive on that with us, as maybe something that you did or didn't say about that, reminding our people kind of where you were there and what that looks like?
Yeah, if you look at the relationships that people have, it kind of mirrors where they're going, and it gives you a good thought of who they are by who they hang out with. It's that whole idea, you know, bad company corrupts good character, or show me your friends and I'll show you your future. So you can tell a lot about people just by who they hang out with and how and their mannerisms, their behavior when they're around certain people. And so that's kind of the mirror. When you look into our lives, when you see the relationships that are around you, you can tell a lot about a person and who they are. what are the values they have and how they treat other people. There's certain people in our lives that we just have to be very careful with how much we invest our time in. Because there's people that, and I talked a little bit about that, will drain us. And I often like to look at this with my own life. When I left this person's presence, did I feel excited? Do I feel drained? Do I feel like pumped up and ready to take the world, ready to go, after people more? And I think we have to think through that when we're around people. It doesn't mean I'm not going to hang out with them, but it really postures me of why am I having this gathering, this meeting, this encounter. Does that make sense? And I think as leaders, we know that going in, like, okay, this person wants to meet with Pastor Rodney because they need counseling in marriage. Well, he's not there so I can lift him up and make him feel good. You know what I'm saying? It's about ministering to them. Right. But we also, I think, gentlemen, we know that we need to be ministered to as well. We need places where we're getting refreshed and refueled. And if we're constantly pouring out, and people are sucking the life out of us, this is where I think the danger comes for me is, what do I have left for my wife and my kids if I have that happen? So I think we just have to be very careful with who we invest our time in and who we allow to take up our time. And it sounds so difficult, but no is sometimes the greatest thing we can say to people.
Well, I think, too, and you made the point, and somebody could go back and listen to the message, I think, if they wanted to, but because we both said it, and then I, of course, reiterated this week before last, but we need community, but at the same time, you're very right that I think the word toxic is key for us here. Toxic community is worse than isolation. So even you, Bryan, what are your thoughts when you hear that?
Well, absolutely, because there's nothing like being around people that are just drag you down. Because you can sit there and be alone, and you're just whatever feeling you're feeling. But if you're around people that are dragging you down, then that's automatically a negative. You're automatically, usually, like Pastor Johnny said, you're going to feel worse just being in their presence sometimes, because all they do is talk negativity, or all they do is want to just try to tear you down even. So I think it's absolutely right that it's all about what community you're keeping is the important factor in that.
And I think one thing we have to be careful of too is, if I'm not careful, I'm a Tigger, and all I want to hang out with Tiggers. But I do need some Eeyores and some owls and some piglets in my life to help out. Does that make sense? Because sometimes I just want to be around people that are like me, but that's not good either, right, as far as who I'm, created to be and who I'm becoming. But the worst is the Eeyores. It's the hey, I'm here. It just feels like there's complaining all the time. So, but I do have to be careful about that, because not everybody's wired like all of us are wired, and I do want to allow people in, but it's like taking the meat and throwing out the bones, right, with when you're with people as well. So,
oh yeah. So Pastor Johnny, keep in mind how we know how Sunday mornings work. You have about 35 minutes to work with. The clock's ticking red. You have to land the plane. But you had a lot of very heavy content in this message about relationship drainers, talking about the critic and the vampire and the victim. And so I know you left stuff on the table. There's something that you couldn't get into the message. We wouldn't have time for it. So whether it was a deeper dive into the drainers or a scripture you couldn't get to, what is one thing you wanted to say to the church about relationships, but you had to cut it for time?
I think the biggest thing is trying to let people understand that who Jesus was and how he walked the earth about allowing people in, because I don't want to take away from anything of evangelism, because we are called to go and make disciples. So there's this thing in me that wants to go and build relationships with people, but there's also this thing that we have to make sure we're taking care of us, right, as an individual. And I think so many times at the expense of our own well-being, we build relationships with people and we end up hurting ourselves. Discipline is very, very important to me, and taking care of me. And that may sound selfish to some of you listening, but you have to take care of you. And oftentimes I realize that these relationships were keeping me from taking care of the most important thing is I got to make sure I'm healthy, my mind, my will, my emotions. And so making sure that that's happening, because these things are going to happen. You're going to run into these people all the time, Bryan. Rodney, we know that. These people are going to come into our lives, and it's It's how do we approach them, the vampires, with love, with the critics that I just want to roll my eyes at them and not do that, but still be Jesus, but not allow that to drain the life out of me, to drain the grace out of me. But I also think something that helps me too, and maybe some of you can relate to this, is I know when I'm emotionally drained. I would say my compassion level is at 0, and I know it. And so at that moment, guess what? It's not good for Johnny to be around people, because if I'm around people, I'm going to say things that are of the flesh. I'm not going to be Jesus. But I think it's having that self-awareness. I call it a spiritual self-awareness. I'm drained right now, Jesus. Then you don't need to go into this right now. So I think that's important as we're talking about building community and fellowship, is that you've got to understand where you are healthy, your health as well. Does that make sense? Where you are personally? Because if you don't, you're going to end up getting the life sucked out of you and have nothing left. And unintentionally, you're going to hurt some people, I think.
I took a lot of notes when you were speaking, and one of the things that I reflected back on, I think it could go right here, is that you said you can minister to someone without letting them influence your future. And I think that plays in right here, right where we are. Jesus was the best at this. I mean, he was so good. And so if we could learn from anyone, I think it would be Jesus. Look at how he dealt with the different situations. He would be in a crowd. And like the woman with the issue of blood, even, he was in a crowd. He didn't even know, and he realized, what had happened, that she was there. And so he was so good at ministering and moving on. He could do it. He did it well. And because some of us, I don't know what we would have done. We would have probably, a woman gets healed. We would have set up a shrine or something. I don't know what we would have done right there. But that's not what Jesus did. Woman gets healed. He says some things. He moves on. And we see him do that several times. He's really good at it. But in the evenings, where do we see him? He's with the 12. He's with the 3. He's possibly with the 70, the 120, whatever. And so he's really good at how he used the 24-hour clock well. He used his days well. That's what you're talking about, I think, too, Pastor Johnny.
Yeah, and I think you said something really important, too, is that he was on mission. And as followers of Jesus, we're on mission. And we have to realize, too, let me just say this, that the emotional vampire, the perpetual victim, the constant critic, they're not the enemy. We have an enemy. And the enemy is Satan, and he wants to steal, kill, and destroy. He'll use anything he can to do that. He'll use anything he can to keep us off mission, to build fellowship, to have these deep sense of community. And if he can use people to do this, I'm telling you, I was there 15 years ago. I was getting sucked dry and coming home with nothing to give to my family, and it was horrible. And my wife would just say, I understand that's your job, but it wasn't okay. And I think we have to realize that there's things in our lives that are going to try to destroy us and keep us from developing these things that are so important, this fellowship with God and with other people. And I think it's another thing too, Pastor Rodney, we're very big on this, is accountability. Who are the people in my life that can say, Johnny, you need to let go of that? But she needs me. No, she doesn't. She needs Jesus. But and I think that it's important to have people that can call me out on that too, and to say, hey, when's the last time you were able to be with your family? I think that's important too when we're talking about fellowship and community as well.
Pastor Ryan made a point that many places we see Jesus doing miracles. He could have easily just set up camp there and had a 4-night revival there, and there would have been 100 people to touch, 100 people to minister to. And it would have been great things that he'd been doing, but it wasn't the things he was called to. And I think, kind of going back to your point, Pastor Johnny, is that there are things that they're good. We can get so bogged down in doing the good things, but not doing the right things. And so we have to listen out for what is God calling us into, and if we're pouring out doing things that seem good, that are not good for us, or not good for others, then it can do a whole lot worse than it can do good in the long run. So I want to get practical with this, because it's very easy to say to cut off toxic people. If my friend is a constant critic, I can stop texting them. But what if the emotional vampire is my boss?
Oh, wow.
Ooh, what if the perpetual victim is my mother-in-law? And she's not. Okay, I'm just saying this hypothetical here.
If you're listening, mother-in-law,
I love my mother-in-law. She's not her. But what if the listener, what if their mother-in-law is the perpetual victim? You talk about being a thermostat versus a thermometer. So let's unpack it for a person who's stuck in a toxic environment for 40 hours a week.
Wow.
How do you survive? How do they survive without becoming toxic themselves?
I think the first thing you have to do is your mindset. Because if you go into work and you have this person in your life that's toxic, then you can either go in going like an Eeyore, oh my goodness, I hate my job, and with this negative mindset. And then if that happens, what happens around the coffee shop? What happens around the table? You're going to start talking bad about that person. Mm-hmm. So I think the mindset is, this is, okay, I'm here. God's planted me here for a reason. Mm. I don't necessarily, you might even agree with your boss, but I'm going to treat this as a mission, and I'm going to love, and I'm going to show grace, and I'm going to love, and I'm going to be Jesus in this environment. I can't control, and sometimes you can't change. You can be the thermostat in a sense, to a degree, but when you got a boss that's that way, you just continue to love. John Maxwell would say it's 365 leadership. How can you lead up? How can you have an influence on your boss in a powerful, positive, Christ-like way? And that's taking the high road, because even if you're treated bad and you feel like they don't even care about you, to still, what would Jesus do in this situation? How would he treat this person? Because our mantra here, everyone counts. Everyone, even that boss, even that person that drives you crazy and that feels like they bleed negativity. I think so. It's a mindset for me, Bryan. I think we have to go and change in our mindset of how we're approaching work and how we're looking at our boss, is that our boss is made in the image of God, that God still loves that person. And to try to give them the benefit of the doubt, I always try to do that. I don't know his situation. I don't know his story. He could have had a horrible childhood, and this is him living it out. So when I tend to have that in my mindset, it helps me have a lot more grace, brings my anger down, brings my bitterness down, and helps me to be able to be the best that I can and love the best that I can. Again, not agreeing with some of the stuff that goes on, but to walk in and to try to change and to love and respect. Mm-hmm. And what Pastor Rodney talks about all the time, honor up, honor down, and honor all around. So
I think too, because we're kind of building with this whole series this quarter of the year. We started out with and we actually ended the year, started the new year with just pause, Selah, wait, and then there's that whole thing of understanding every day. It's not just some days, but every day I get up and I spend some time with the Lord. I'm going to do that. I'm going to get my like you said, I'm going to get my mind right. Going into the situation, whatever it looks like, and across the board, whether it's the boss, the mother-in-law, the person that's kin to you, whatever it looks like, I think we've got to get our mind right. I think that's one of the places where we probably, if the enemy could get us off rhythm or whatever it looks like, and we can't get in there with peace, and we want to be the people that's bringing that in, wherever we go. So I think that's really big, along with what you're saying too, is that we have to be able to get that time with the Lord to get ourselves right, to bring these things in so that we can be the 365-degree leader wherever we are, however we're positioned. I think that's big.
I agree. I think if the first thing you do before you go into work is scroll Facebook, you're not going to go in with a great attitude, my friend.
That's not a good day.
I promise you. And I'm not saying anything against Facebook or social media, but you're wading through a lot of negativity and you're already going in on edge. But what if you went in listening to one of the Lectio things and you're praying, or you have a worship song right before you go into work, that's going to get inside of your soul, and you're going in now. Like, one of the things I love to do is like, Holy Spirit, you're welcome here. Come flood this place. I used to sing it out loud before I went into Dunkin' Donuts, or every place I went, like, invade this place. Mm-hmm. And if we can go in with that mindset, we'll be looking through that lens. But if we go in through the lens of this place is horrible, that boss is bad, then that's all we're going to see. But if we said, no, that boss needs Jesus, this place is a mission field, doesn't that change the way we live and the way we work? It just changes that. And people, I promise you, people will take notice of that, including your boss, because he's going to be like, wow, what's going on? Mm-hmm. So...
yeah, that happened to me a pretty good bit. I used to have a 25-minute one-way travel when I was in the military, and where I worked, I was like the only Christian until people started coming to the Lord through our church there. But all it was I went in with that. That's how I was taught. I was taught to go in with the Lord, taught to go in. So I spent 25 minutes, one way, going in, making sure that I was, in a place where I worked at that level, man. I knew I was in a mission field, and I knew that there was a possibility of someone giving their life to the Lord that day. And so we got to see it over and over and over again. And it can happen again. Goes back to atmosphere, changing the atmosphere, changing your situation, whatever it looks like for you as an individual, but definitely going in ready.
The other thing I think is kind of funny, it just reminded me of this, is Jesus says to love your enemies, and in Proverbs they tell us that being kind to your enemy is like heaping coals.
Yes.
So if your boss is ticking you off and toxic, you want to throw some coals on him. Bring him some donuts. Bring him something in the morning. Say something nice to him. Go the extra mile. I promise. I know you're like, wait a minute, what that's going to do? He's not going to understand it, but he's going to begin to something's different about you, and it's going to begin to experience, I think, the love and the grace and the mercy that Jesus has given us. So I just think it was funny that, like, you want to be nice, be kind, and watch what happens.
I like too that that whole thing, and stop seeing them as your tormentor and start seeing them as your assignment. Wow,
yeah.
The Lord's very strategic. So if we see him as our assignment, just ask the Lord, right? As you draw near to the Lord, he's going to draw near to you, and then ask him, what does my assignment look like? We were just talking a little bit about that a while ago, Bryan, but what does it look like? And again, goes back to the whole thermostat, thermometer thing across the board. You're the light. You're the light. I think it's wise that we could do that.
And it's really not too difficult to do it. You don't have to, and here's the thing, you don't have to be super spiritual.
That's right.
When you do these things with your boss or whoever that person is, you don't got to be like, the Bible told me, blah, 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 I'm supposed to blah, 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 so here I am. No. Just do something nice. Extend kindness. Right? We used to remember random acts of kindness.
Random acts of kindness.
And
Renee and I were talking about
it
yesterday, as a matter of fact. Random acts of kindness, yes, makes a big difference.
Yep.
So this has been eye-opening today. It's been fantastic, and it's not all about being mean. It's about being wise. Pastor Johnny, you gave us 3 questions in your notes to ask ourselves. So let's double down on that relationship audit that you gave us a few weeks ago. I think it's a habit that's worth keeping and keeping around.
Yeah, so I think it really is important that you can do this on a consistent basis, because if you just did it one Sunday, you're going to forget about it.
That's right.
And it's just going to kind of go in one ear, out the other ear. But the first question, if you're looking at your relationships, is who is forming you spiritually? Who is forming you spiritually? In other words, who in your life is helping form you with your relationship with Jesus in a powerful and healthy way? The second question is, who drains you consistently? It's a good question to ask, and I know we joked about this, but some of you, maybe you're with a spouse that doesn't know Jesus, or maybe you're with kids, and you need to think through that. I'm not saying you walk away, but you need to really think of who drains you, then maybe ask the question, why? Why are they draining me? But who is it draining you? And if they're not within your sphere of immediate family, you may need to think, how much time am I spending with them, and do I need to push back? The last one was, who sharpens my faith? Who is that person that's sharpening my faith? And what I love is, we talk about this all the time, is my groups, the groups that I'm in, my Ironman guys, the Forge groups that I'm in, these guys help sharpen me. My Sunday night groups, the couples that I'm in, these are where I get sharpened the most, Bryan. I would say by far the most is when I'm around people. Now, God sharpens me in my private time as well, but there's something about being where 2 or 3 are gathered in the name of Jesus. His presence is so strong there, and we're able to do that. So I think it's an important thing to just ask yourself these questions, my friends, is, again, who's forming you spiritually? And if you go, well, no one, then maybe you need to come see us. We'll hook you up. We'll connect you with someone that would love to partner with you on that. Who drains you? And then who is sharpening you in your faith? I think these are all great questions to continue to ask yourself as you move forward, and to have an answer for those. And if you don't, it's time to start looking at maybe some people in your life that can help you take those steps.
I think it's neat, Bryan. You called this episode Friends, Fools, and Fellowship. So I love it. So if we could answer, Pastor Johnny, these 3 questions like this, like who's forming me spiritually? Those are my friends, right? Who drains me consistently? I could just go, we'll go ahead and say it. Scripture talks about it, right? Fools. And then who sharpens my faith? Man, that's fellowship. This is people I'm in fellowship with. I'm in a study, a men's group on Mondays, and those guys, my goodness, we were listening yesterday because I love this. You had pointed out there, if you don't have a name for number 3, you need to find one this week. As a matter of fact, the funny thing to me is like the study I'm in right now on Monday with these guys, the guy told us in the book, if you don't have 4 guys in your life that you can call right now, get off the couch, go find them, and don't come back until you get them. He was like, I don't care if you have to go knock on doors, what you have to do, but go get these guys, because we need these people in our life, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's really neat. If you don't have a name for number 3, who sharpens my faith, you need to find one this week. Wow, what a way to go out of this thing too, is like thinking through. But I think we need more than one. But if you don't have one, then you're in trouble. Talk to us about that a little bit, Pastor Johnny.
I would agree, because one of my favorite scenes is in Lord of the Rings. If you remember the Fellowship of the Rings, and they're arguing over who's going to take this ring. If you remember, that's such a vivid in my imagination, and I can see it. And Frodo steps up, and he's got a mission. And he says, this has to be done. I'll take the ring. And each one of you have a mission. And what if you told someone about that mission? I think that's important. You have a mission. And guess what happened? When he said, I have a mission and this is what needs to be done. And then these guys stepped up. You have my axe. You have my sword. You have my bow. And they gathered around him. And guess what? They all didn't think the same. They were all from different realms. Weird. I mean, they fought with each other. Remember that? They fought with each other. Think of the disciples. I mean, goodness. But Jesus used them to flip the world upside down, my friends. What could God use in your life if you were to invite people in to be a part of your mission, of your story, that loves you for who you are and that wants the best for you, and that can call you on things as well? And so, yeah, I do think it's way more than just one person, Rodney. And I would think, just to kind of expound on that, there's people that I go to that when it comes to finances, that I would not go to when I need something, like when it comes to maybe ministry wise. And I don't mean that bad, not that he's better, but when it's finances, I go to a certain person because he knows accounting and financing. When I need something when it comes to leadership, I know who I'm going to go to. And I think it's important to have those people in your life. There's not one person that's a go-to for everything except Jesus. But I think having those people in your life is really important when it comes to your growth and your fellowship. And that's oftentimes, if you haven't been a part of a group, my friends, that's what group's all about, because you'll find people from different walks of life, blue-collared, white-collared, old, young, with all different life experiences that can help you, and you can help them build that community and build that fellowship with one another.
I think it goes back to that passage we used up front, bad company corrupts good character, because we also said, and which we say it a lot, and it's a cliche, I think, almost too, is, show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And so that goes along with this whole thing is, it goes back. When I think of the 4 guys, and I know that's what he was saying in the book too, it was thinking about the 4 guys that were carrying the guy on the mat, man, that dropped the guy down through the roof to Jesus. Mm-hmm. Those are your buddies right there. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be able to, they're going to sharpen you. They're going to keep you sharp. I can imagine that guy just like, no, I'm not going. Y'all don't have to get me up on the roof. You don't have. No, friend. We're getting you to Jesus.
We're doing this. We're going.
And that's how I like this too, is because we're getting to Jesus, whatever it looks like. And so I think we have to have those people in our life that sharpens our faith.
Yeah, and the other thing is, those who walk with the wise will become wise. So the question is, who you walking with? Who you walking with? Or for Rodney, who you running with?
Yeah, who you running with?
And walking with.
I was running with a lot of guys this morning. We had a big crew of wise guys, too. It was great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm blessed to say I've got 2 men in my life right here sitting with me that I know I can go to anytime. Definitely make sure you have at least one, preferably more, like Pastor Johnny's saying. Have your 4, like Pastor Rodney's saying. But Pastor Johnny, thank you so much for sitting in the hot seat today. It's been great having you on the table.
Yes. Well, I appreciate it. And I would say one last thing, Bryan, just as we're closing here. Who do you have in your life that you can be as honest can be? Men, women, who is someone that you can just say anything? If you say no one, you're in a dangerous spot.
Yes.
You need someone in your life. I just met with a gentleman this morning that he'd never opened up with anyone. And you could see the change starting to fall, the weight starting to lift. So I would just encourage, do you have anybody in your life? If you say, no, I don't, I want to encourage you, please find someone. There's someone that can help you take that stance. But thank you. It's fun. I enjoyed it, guys.
Thank you so much. That's so good. Pastor Rodney, take us home.
Man, I love that. Thank you, Pastor Johnny, for being on here with us. Let's say it again, like, check your circle this week, or, who's carrying your mat for you this week, however you want to say it. But as always, pull up a chair. There's always room at the table. And remember, Sunday starts the conversation, but right here is where it continues. We'll see you next time.